Good morning, everyone. My name is Art Noriega. I'm the city manager for the city of Miami. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. We have the opportunity to sort of make a long-awaited but very important announcement, the appointment of our new police chief. Given his impressive track record, I am extremely proud to inform you that Chief Art Acevedo has accepted our offer to join the city of Miami as new police chief. Chief Acevedo currently serves as the chief of police for the Houston Police Department, which is the nation's fourth largest at over 6,100 employees. He was born in Cuba. He's the first Hispanic to lead the Houston Police Department, which really helps him understand the complex issues affecting his diverse communities in Houston and will help make a smooth transition to the Magic City. Prior to his nomination and appointment to lead the Houston Police Department, Chief Acevedo served over 9 years as the chief of police for the Austin, Texas Police Department. Through the years, he's held various leadership positions with the International Association of Chiefs and the Major Cities Chiefs Association, where he currently serves as president. I'm extremely confident that Chief Acevedo will lead our police department in a manner that will make our world-class community very proud. I know, as a proponent of community policing, that he will also continue to strengthen the bond between the community and our police department, while continuing to focus on keeping our residents safe, informed, and above all else, engaged. We're incredibly fortunate to have him as our new police chief. His leadership will be crucial to the future success of our police department. Chief Acevedo, I'm very excited to work with you as we lead the Miami Police Department forward, to tackle the public safety challenges that our city faces, and to take our department to even greater levels of excellence. Your dynamic personality and enthusiasm will be infectious. Welcome to the best city in the world. Now I'm going to hand it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The first job of a mayor and a manager and of our commission is to keep our residents safe. That is the number one job. And our residents can sleep very, very well tonight knowing that our manager, with the help of a commission and with my intervention, brought to Miami the best chief in America. We're very blessed to have someone in Art who not only has presided over 3 large departments, but is someone who brings a tremendous ability, personality, and has the right frame of mind to come in here and make this the best department in the planet, which we already feel that it is. As mayor, I couldn't be any prouder of the work of the city manager. I'm very grateful that we not only have Chief Acevedo, but as I've told him, his best asset is the person that's standing to his left, Tanya Acevedo, and his 13-year-old boy who are going to be coming to this community. Tanya is a superstar in her own right. And we're blessed not only to have Art, but to have Tanya as well. And our family and the Miami families feels very, very blessed to have you. I have 2 stories that I want to share with you. One of them is when I first got elected mayor, the first 3 months, and I never invited the press to do this, I ran a 5K every time there was a homicide in my city, beginning and ending where the homicide occurred exactly 24 hours after it happened. The reason why I did that was because I wanted our command staff to understand that something incredibly heinous had just occurred in our city, something unacceptable. Violent crime, homicides are not something that we're ever going to tolerate in the city. And so we went out there and got what I feel is America's best chief. The second story I want to relay is a story that I just shared with our commissioners, with our chief, and with our manager, and with his wife, which is a mural that I have to children in the African American community that have been killed as a result of gun violence. And for me, it is intolerable for that to occur in our community. And again, I think it is of incredible importance that our manager, and with the help of the commission and with the profile that this city has, was able to attract someone of Art's talent, which is incredible. I was blessed to be able to speak last night to Mayor Turner from Houston, who's a dear friend on the executive committee of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And he was incredibly gracious and incredibly He's a person of high character and had nothing but amazing things to say about Art, about his leadership abilities, about the fact that he's beloved by his community. He understood the need for secrecy, and he understood the fact that just 5 years ago, he did the very same thing that we did with Art from Austin, taking Art from Austin. And I actually got a text from the mayor of Austin as well, who's also a friend, Steve Adler, congratulating me, from Steve Benjamin, the former president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and so many members of this community and this country texting me that we got America's best chief. And so as the incoming president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, having the president of the Major Cities Chiefs Association, I think is a tremendous feather in the cap of our city and something that our residents should be incredibly proud of. I'll just say a few words in Spanish and then I think turn it over to the chief and then our commissioners, have them say a few words, or the commissioners first and the chief, and then I'll take questions afterwards. La primera prioridad como alcalde es proteger a sus residentes. No hay ninguna prioridad más importante que eso. Así que para mí es un gran privilegio poder anunciar que hoy conseguimos y atraímos el mejor jefe de los Estados Unidos para ser jefe de la policía de la ciudad de Miami. Art Acevedo, conjunto con su esposa Tania, van a venir y hacer de este departamento el mejor departamento en el planeta. Para mí, cada vez que hay un crimen, cada vez que hay un homicidio, me duele, me afecta. Y queríamos yo, conjunto con la comisión, conjunto con el administrador, seleccionar y escoger la mejor persona para nuestros residentes. Ellos pueden acostarse muy tranquilos esta noche con la sabiduría que encontramos y atraímos el mejor jefe en los Estados Unidos. Así que para mí es un gran orgullo. Yo pude hablar con el alcalde de Houston, que es amigo mío. Houston es una ciudad dinámica, es una ciudad en cual el tamaño del departamento de policía es el mismo tamaño de nuestra ciudad. Tiene un presupuesto de $1,000 millones. Él supervisa más de 5,000 policías. Aquí nosotros tenemos 4,500 empleados. Así que es un gran privilegio y un honor no solo atraer a Art, que es una persona de los más alto calidad, pero también a su esposa Tania, que es una superestrella y que nosotros estamos muy contentos de tener a su familia, a su hijo de 13 años aquí. Él es alguien que ha tenido éxito en todos los lugares en cuales él ha estado y no tenemos la menor duda que él va a tener éxito aquí. Así que le quiero dar primero la palabra a mis comisionados que se expresen. Entonces quiero darle la palabra al jefe de la policía nuevo y entonces después de eso me gustaría contestar cualquier pregunta que tengan ustedes. Comisionado, por favor.
Buenos días, Ken Russell, vicepresidente de la comisión, vice chairman of the City of Miami Commission, commissioner for District 2. Chief Acevedo, welcome to Miami. Bienvenido a Miami.
Gracias.
Thank you for joining us here and thank you for accepting this offer. As many of you know by our charter, the elected leadership is not involved with the selection of the police chief. And we are very thankful that our city manager is very cognizant of not only the issues facing our community, but our country as a whole. And in choosing someone like Chief Acevedo, the manager is recognizing that Miami has an opportunity to lead the country out of a very difficult year of polarized conversations on policing. This past year, through the protests over the death of George Floyd, people were pushed to one side or the other of a conversation where you either defund the police or you believe in law and order. And I've studied on Chief Acevedo, and I look forward to getting to know him better because I believe through his statements in the past that he takes a nuanced position on this, that you can have both law and order and community policing that embraces reform and accountability. This is very, very important to us to maintain and build a trust because the City of Miami Police Department has been in a state of reform for many years. And I'm very proud of our current leadership that carries this city through a difficult year and where we go from here. And I think Chief Acevedo is a perfect leader for this moment in time. I look forward to what you do with us and for us. Thank you, Chief, for joining us.
Good morning. Buenos días. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome today to Miami Chief Acevedo and his wife. Es un orgullo dar la bienvenida en el día de hoy a el jefe de la policía Acevedo y su esposa. Just like in those old Tarzan movies that you see the elephants at a certain time of their lives, they all head to one place. They tell me that we Cubans do the same thing with Miami. No matter what part we're scattered around America, we all end up migrating back to Miami. But that's not the reason that Chief Acevedo was picked here. Might be one of the reasons that he also wants to come back, because it's the sort of coming back home to him. Even though when he came, even at a younger age than I did, when I was 6, he came at 4, his family went to California. But the manager met the single criteria that I asked him for in the next police chief. And that was that it had to be somebody qualified. No politics, go on qualifications. Having said that, and while it's the manager's decision to have picked under a charter the next police chief, we have some excellent qualified individuals that several of them would have made right now fine police chiefs and can make fine police chiefs in the future. But I believe that one of the reasons that the manager wanted to go out, not only that he found someone with an outstanding background and experience like Chief Acevedo, but every now and then in every organization you need to change the DNA somewhat so that you can improve what you have. And I believe that Chief Acevedo, if we give him our support, if we work with him, we'll provide that. We'll provide the leadership that our city needs, while having a heart, having the tenderness for those that need it, also having the strong stick when you need to have it. Houston is the 4th largest city in America. It's got the 5th largest police department. It has more police officers than we have employees in the whole city. And as the mayor said, the budget of their police department is the entire budget of the city of Miami. The biggest challenge that American cities face, and particularly the larger you are, the more of a challenge, is drugs. Our country has been and is being invaded by drugs. The vast majority of the shootings that we have in Miami, the vast majority of the robberies that we have in Miami, they're related in one way or another to drugs. Just about every one of our kids that have been shot or killed in the streets is because of drug gangs fighting with one another for territory. So this is going to be the biggest challenge that a new police chief will face. How to confront that number one problem in the city of Miami that frankly is the number one problem in America. When you look out in the streets of Miami and you see those that we call homeless, majority of them are out there because of some drug problem that in many cases had led to mental problems. And that's why they're out in the streets. So having said that, I just want to welcome Chief Acevedo and his wife, again, we look forward for them coming to Miami soon, permanently. Let me just say a couple of more words in Spanish. Como esas películas que se han visto que los elefantes en cierto tiempo de su vida van a un mismo lugar. Algunos dicen que así es Miami para cubanos, que no importa en qué parte de Estados Unidos emigramos, fuimos a vivir, que eventualmente todos buscamos regresar a Miami. Y no estoy diciendo que esa es la razón por cual el jefe Acevedo ha venido para acá, pero sin duda Miami es parte de su cultura, algo que en lo poco que hemos hablado quiere regresar a vivir esa parte de su cultura y vida. Mientras, sin duda, aquí en la ciudad de Miami tenemos varios policías que están bien calificados para haber sido jefe de policía de Miami hoy y en un futuro. No queda ninguna duda que el jefe Acevedo tiene todas las calificaciones necesarias para ser jefe de la policía de Miami. Yo le había pedido al administrador una sola cosa para que él escogiera el próximo jefe de policía de Miami, que fuera una persona calificada. Y sin duda, el jefe Acevedo lo es. Pero algunas veces, en cualquier organización, policía o otra, hay que cambiar el DNA de esa organización para traer algo nuevo de afuera. Y por eso yo creo que fue la decisión final que el administrador tomó en escoger al jefe Acevedo, una persona que sin duda tiene uno de los mejores resumés de cualquier jefe de policías de Estados Unidos. Le damos la bienvenida a él y a su esposa Tanya. Van a estar con nosotros ya permanente en algunas semanas y le deseamos lo mejor porque triunfando él como jefe de policía quiere decir que todos nosotros en Miami vamos a triunfar porque la responsabilidad principal de un gobierno es la protección de nuestras vidas y propiedades. Y en eso el jefe Acevedo tiene años de experiencia.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before introducing our new chief, Commissioner, do you want to say a few words? Or you want to say a few words?
Good morning. As I understand the story, the manager reached out and said, Houston, we have a problem. We need your chief. And then the rest becomes folklore. Welcome. I just saw an interview that he did last week, pretty much telling the Texas governor that he was a joke. And I knew then that he was a pretty good guy. Welcome to town, you and your family. It's always great when the good people come back home. Here we have a lot of challenges. If anyone is up to those challenges, I understand that you are. I look forward to working with you and hope that you don't think a year from now it wasn't a great thing to come back home.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I introduce the chief, I just want to again thank former Chief George Colina. I want to thank our interim chief, Ron Papier. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of the candidates, many who are here. In fact, 4 of them who are right here. who did an excellent job throughout the process and were extremely deserving of the opportunity. And, you know, one of the things that the chief relayed to me was that he is a maker of chiefs. He's had a great career helping people become chiefs as well and being a mentor for senior leadership. So that's something that we're excited about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our new chief, Art Acevedo.
Okay, manager. I know the manager's here somewhere. I just saw him. He's like a ninja, Art Noriega, and you know, it's really interesting that I'm here. I can't find out. Tanya, thank you for taking the plunge again. It's a journey of faith into public service, and you know, there's a discussion whose selection is it mayor, form of government, strong mayor, form of government, city manager, form of government, and what I'm looking for as a leader and as a police chief is a functional, united form of government. And the reason I'm here is because I believe that God meant for us to be here on this day, because I'm a person of faith. I'm not afraid to talk about my faith. Every door that's open is opened by the good Lord up above, and every door is closed, it's on his time. So I'm a little fearless, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I would hire myself, because I think Commissioner mentioned that I said some things about the governor in California, in Texas, but I can tell you that we're living a time in our nation's history where the American people are hurting, where the crows are coming in, the chickens are coming in, the roosters coming in to roost, whatever that saying is. And there's a lot of pain in this nation. And unless we take the time to feel that pain, process that pain, acknowledge that pain of communities of color that disproportionately are impacted by bad policing, we will never get beyond the summer of 2020. And I can tell you, Mayor and Art, that I wasn't looking for this opportunity, but in my heart, I knew that my mayor, Sylvester Turner, who's a phenomenal leader in Houston, I knew his time was coming up. And I was contemplating what's next, because politics are not in my heart, because as you know, I have no home. I piss off the left and the right, to be honest with you, because they're both, when they're in extreme. But service is in my heart, and making a difference is in my heart. And what people need to understand, that our communities are watching us as leaders, not just for what we say and do, but what we fail to say and do. And for communities that are communities of faith, God's doing the same thing, and we're not fooling him when we're not doing his word in deed, but only in mouth. So let me just close real quickly, because I know I'll be back, and I want to open it up to questions for the mayor and the city manager. But to the police officers here from the Miami Police Department, I love cops. I love good cops. And guess what? The communities that need you most are disproportionate communities of color and poor communities, to include poor white communities, because there's a lot of poor white people in this country, and nobody talks about them, and they wonder, why are they so mad? Because nobody talks about them. I'm here to tell you that when you do the right thing, I will lose my job before I sell you out. But if you want to be a member of the Children of the Corn that come to work every day figuring out, how can I abuse somebody? How can I make the good look bad? We know that it only takes one Ferguson to set us back decades. I can tell you, you might as well resign, because we will not tolerate mediocrity at the Miami Police Department. And I will not apologize for getting rid of mediocrity, because when you allow mediocrity to fester, the community sees it, they know it, and it spreads like a cancer. I want to be your surgeon, Mayor, and I got to get used to the new commissioners. I got to get used to that now. And city manager, but I can tell you how you guys pulled this off. It was really, it was God's work. And this man, I met him, but almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, we were, as the president of the Major State Chiefs, we had to go to Washington to talk about universal background checks, and to talk about how do we make our streets safer from violence. Not how do we take away guns from law-abiding Americans of sound mind, but how do we keep guns out of the hands, crime guns out of the hands of the criminals who's those children's faces out there. See, nobody's talking about the victims. Nobody's talking about those names. Nobody's talking about the police officers. My 3 police officers I buried last year. Christopher Brewster, and I better not start saying the names, I'll start crying. But they were shot and killed we're not going to forget their sacrifice. So thank you for calling me, because the day that I met you with Jorge Colina, you know, as Cubans, one of the things that we have is that we can assess people real quick, right? Mi mamá me decía, óyeme, en 2 minutos que conocí a alguien, ese no sirve, ten cuidado con ese. We can assess people, and we are in the people business, relational policing. It's about transparency, it's about respect, it's about engaging people in the good times so you can build the emotional capital that's sure to come, that you're going to have to draw on in the bad times. And it's about accountability. And accountability is a two-way street. And when we do that, we'll build trust. But this man and Art Noriega is they're closers. Where is he? Where's Art? Oh, there he is. Yeah, trust me, he's the quiet assassin. Don't let that quietness fool you. Pero Arturo Noriega y el alcalde me llamó y me dijeron que, oye, queremos que traiga aquí. Si mi papá y mi mamá lo hubieran dicho, el día 12 de diciembre de 1968, llegó este niño, 4 años y medio, a la Casa de Libertad aquí en Miami. Ustedes saben que eso era 2 barracas del ejército. 2 semanas estuvimos aquí. Mi papá y mi mamá me decían, oye, acuérdense que este país nos está dando el regalo más grande que puedes tener. Y esa es la libertad. La libertad de perseguir tus sueños, la libertad de hacer lo que tú quieras hacer. Y también nos dijo, que acuérdate que el peor día en los Estados Unidos con la libertad es mejor que el mejor día en el comunismo. Así que quiera decirme que soy socialista, que me diga mi cara, porque yo soy gusano, padre gusano, y seguimos siendo gusano. And I will close in English real quick. 12-12-68, we got here. If somebody would told my parents that we'd be coming back here, they'd say, it'll never happen. But he took us to California to be with my aunt and uncle, and he wanted us to assimilate to this culture. But my father told me, and told my brothers and sisters, just remember, we have gotten the greatest gift of all here in Miami when we got to the House of Liberty, the process as refugees, the gift of freedom. And never forget that the worst day with the freedom that we get in the United States is better than the best day under communist rule in Cuba. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you to the commissioners for welcoming me. And HPD, to Miami PD, if you think that you have figured me out, good luck, because I tell you right now, nobody thought I'd be here. Don't try to predict me, but you can know this. I got your back. We're going to go work. We're going to move on. And let's start making some chiefs, because I see a lot of good people here. God bless you all. I look forward to this opportunity.
Sure.
A point of clarification for you, Mayor, and then a question for you, Chief.
Sure.
And Steve Vasquez, Local 10 News, nice to meet you. Point of clarification for the Mayor. One, when exactly does he start? Nuts and bolts. And
Sure.
two, you had mentioned that was my intervention, but what is
Sure. So let me answer question number 1. The first question is, he's going to start somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks, depending on how he finalizes things in Houston. We obviously pushed him to start earlier, but he pushed back out of respect for his mayor. And we want to be respectful of his mayor, who's a friend. So we're going to give him the time that he needs to transition in Houston in a fair way. On the second point was, I knew Art, as he mentioned, for 4 years. And so as this process was unfolding, he was sort of a dream candidate. And Art Noriega and I both agreed on that. I connected the two of them, and then Art took it from there and did a magnificent job of, as Art Acevedo would say, we're gonna have to start saying Art Acevedo or Noriega, as Art Acevedo would say, being a closer. So we have a great closer in our manager.
And then for the Chief, just real quick.
Let me just go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I was following some of your postings, and it definitely seems like whether it's the NRA, whether it's most recently in the Situation Room, kind of running into the friction we may see at times with partisan politics crashing into public health realities, or whether it was George Floyd. You seem to try to walk this line between various community stakeholders that sometimes can kind of have a little friction. If you want to just take the podium, talk a little bit about that philosophy, and then we're introducing you to the community today. So what's really the number one thing you want folks to know?
Well, first and foremost, I think that as leaders, we got to call balls and strikes. You know, when I make comments, I don't think that's a Republican, that's a Democrat. When I make comments, it's about leadership and the impact it has on the communities we serve and the safety of the public in our police officers. And you know, what's interesting to me to these, you know, we talk about Republicans and Democrats, but when it comes to municipal policing and municipal leadership, whether it's the city manager or these elected officials, they got to keep the water running. They got to get the lights on. And when people call 911, they want us to get there quickly. So what we are talking about is results. And so, again, people are watching, and they need to know what you're made of, what your heart's made of. I think that when you think about Houston, Texas, the fourth largest, soon to be third largest city in the country, the most diverse big city in the country, majority city, and you look at the fact that George Floyd was taken from that community, and you look at the fact that that community, we were the envy of some of the other big cities. You didn't see our city burning. Because let me be real clear to the criminal element, and I said that in Houston. Do not confuse kindness for weakness. Let me say that again. Do not confuse kindness for weakness. We believe in social justice, we believe in social reform, but we also believe in the rule of law. And guess what? They're not mutually exclusive, and you can do both. And what I love about this city, what I see, is I see a mayor and a council and a city manager that are committed to both. And I think that as we move forward, I'm in good shape in Houston. I've got some great executive assistants that I've had the privilege of going through Hurricane Harvey, Super Bowl, 2 World Series, 6 officer involved deaths in the last 4.5 years. They are well positioned. They know they have the playbook, and they're not only that, they're smarter than me. So they're going to take a department that we've moved in the right direction. They're going to make it better. And I hope to come here and again, like on the 19th of March next week, I'll be in Waco putting the badge on one of my assistant chiefs, Dr. Cheryl Victorian, who never even thought about it. Police chiefs never even thought about it, but I like to kick the assistant chiefs out and make them be coaches, because the problem in American policing, it ain't the cops. We have 800,000 police officers serving 18,000 police departments. The vast majority of them are phenomenal. It's police chiefs that tolerate mediocrity. And we're a city pursuing excellence, just like Houston's pursuing excellence, and that's what we're here to focus on. It's excellence, safety, and relationships. ¿Cómo está?
Le quería hacer una pregunta. Desde el verano, especialmente en nuestra comunidad hispana, aquí se vio una división que estás a favor de la policía o a favor de la manifestación, y los que protestan es contra el abuso policial. Según el comisionado Russell, usted piensa que esto no tiene que ser dos polos opuestos. ¿Puede explicarle eso a la comunidad?
Mira, porque la verdad es que no es uno a la otra. Los que están protestando no están protestando los policías buenos. Los que están protestando son los socotrocos que abusan, los abusadores. Y al fin del día, la comunidad que está protestando no dice que no quieren policía, lo que quieren mejor departamentos policíacos. Y quiero decirles que los que lo apoyan más a nosotros son los que están protestando, porque desgraciadamente muchas de esas comunidades que son comunidades de color, el crimen sabe dónde lo afecta a esa comunidad. And what I said is that, she asked really quickly, this summer in Miami, you had people protesting the police and people talking about law and order. And what I explained is that the folks, you can do both. You can protest bad policing and still support policing, and you can solve crime and hold people accountable, but following the constitutional requirements that we are required to follow as police officers and soldiers of the law and servants of the law, and as a police services agency.
Chief Willard Shepard with NBC here, Miami. First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure that the mayor and Mr. Noriega, their brilliant minds, brought you on a day like today to this building, and that was it for you. But big picture, tell me why you made the decision, and secondly, when you get here and up to speed, how do you balance when we have cases and complaints are made about the transparency for the community versus the due process rights of the officers you lead?
Yeah, first of all, I do believe in transparency, but let me just caution the community. You've got to be careful, because when bad policing happens and God forbid somebody loses their life, I can guarantee you I'm going to do the right thing, and I know what bad police looks like, and I know what good policing looks like. But everyone is entitled to due process, and keep in mind that police officers are going to have due process like everybody else, and if you do not follow the process, you can potentially put an administrative case at risk where you end up with a bad police officer, and you can put a criminal case at risk. I remember in Austin we had a really bad officer-involved shooting. My community wanted me to release the video, and that's a very progressive community in Travis County, and the jury pool is going to be reflective. And I explained to these activists, if we release this and it could potentially lead to a change of venue, they can go to a community 50 miles from here that's not reflective of the values of this community. There's unintended consequences. So I will promise you that we will always explain to our community, keep them up to speed, be as transparent as the law allows, but we'll also follow the process, because they joked at me in Austin when I got there. The union said, hey, man, when you fire somebody, it's 50-50 proposition. It goes to arbitration, 50% of the cops get their jobs back. Well, I told them that's going to change, because I plan when I fire somebody, I will see that firing through the end. I will go and I will testify, because no one will be able to actually defend my position and my reasoning but me. And I'm batting 975. Not to brag, but the good cops deserve bad cops to be shown the door.
Chief, what are your thoughts? Because this department, our department, has them on the body cameras, the pluses, but also sometimes the negatives that may not tell the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, look, they say a picture shows 1,000 words, a video shows a million words, but just remember that you've got to, there's a lot, angles matter, there's a lot that goes into these things, but I promise you, I'm not a wallflower when it comes to discipline and calling out bad police. So you can do your research. You'll find out that I'm not a friend of bad cops, but I will stand up for good cops. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, from CBS Sports. So we've talked a lot about how Miami is smaller than Houston in size, police department, budget. So why Miami?
Hey, because Miami is the gateway to the Americas. Miami is the gateway to Europe. Miami is probably, when you look about the influence of this city and the vision of the leadership with the city manager and the mayor and the council, Miami is a city on the move. I mean, look around you. I couldn't believe when we went to dinner last week with Art and his beautiful wife, Michelle. First of all, I felt like family. That's supposed to be awkward, right? We were laughing, and when we started walking around downtown, we've been coming here since 1975 after we left, and we couldn't afford to come back to visit from 68 to 75. As refugees, you know what I'm talking about. But when we started walking around downtown, commissioners, and all your districts, Little Havana, I mean, everything is just, what a job. I want to be part of that. And again, my time was coming up. I had opportunities with the federal, with this administration, the Biden administration. I had opportunities in Los Angeles. But my heart was here, and I said Art because Art and the closers here, and ultimately the department. I think it's a great department, but I think that sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and I want to bring perspective that show them how to do things just a little better.
Two more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
What do you see as the most pressing community issue with police in Miami? And do you plan on bringing any command staff?
No. Okay, first, the most pressing issue here is, we're a reflection of the rest of the nation. It's really community trust, building trust. Every time in the world of social media, in the world of iPhones, anytime there's a bad incident involving police officers anywhere in this country, no matter how few there are compared to the number of contacts and arrests and all these things, it goes viral. And it stays on cyberspace forever. And it stays on a 24-hour news cycle forever. I get hate mail as a police chief on something, and nobody knows where Ferguson starts and Miami ends. I mean, nobody even knows, right? You'll get hate mail 3 years on an incident that was 3 years ago in another city, and people are sending me hate mail like it was my city. So that's the challenge that we have. And that's why we have to engage through relational policing, which means every single contact we make, no matter what your role is at the Miami Police Department. If I say Houston every once in a while, please forgive me. But every contact we make may be our first and only contact with a member of this community, and it is the beginning of a relationship. So I expect the men and women of the Miami Police Department to conduct themselves in a manner where they make a friend and not a foe, because the court of public opinion matters to everything they do. Pay, benefits, how they're going to be treated by a grand jury, how they're going to be treated in a jury, how juries are going to believe them when they have to testify on behalf of our victims. So I'm ready to come. Last one.
Phil Frazen, NBC, also good to see
You look familiar.
Yeah. Miami's a unique city. What's your thinking about working with, the political dynamics, the leadership here, the mayor, the commission? What for the people who oversee what you do, what's your thinking about how you'll be working?
I think that what I love about Texas, right? And by the way, for those of you who don't like, I love Texas. I mean, it is a wonderful state. that Texas bravado, don't mess with Texas. You don't understand it, kind of like Boston until you go there for the first time. But what I loved about Texas for 14 years is they appreciate straight talk. And what I love about this community is we're the same. We're going to speak truth to power. As especially Hispanic culture, we may fight, but we'll love each other and we'll fight with respect. And I think what we've lost in our country is that we've lost the art of disagreeing without becoming disagreeable. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what party. All I care is what's in your heart, right? And what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? So I think that mi mamá decía que no tiene pelo en la lengua, right? No tiene pelo en la lengua. Doesn't have any hair on his tongue. That means he'll tell you what it means. You will always know what I'm thinking, because familiarity does breed trust. So I look forward to working with you. Thank you all very much.
Última pregunta para el alcalde en español. Una última pregunta. Mientras le dan la bienvenida al nuevo jefe Acevedo, muchos se preguntan que por qué no escogieron a alguien de adentro, por qué buscar afuera de la ciudad.
Yo creo que el administrador fue muy claro en su decisión. Tuvimos un chance de contratar y escoger un superestrella, una persona que tenía una gran experiencia, una persona que ya había liderado un departamento que tenía un tamaño más grande que toda la ciudad, con más empleados que toda la ciudad. Eso era la mejor selección, y yo creo que para nosotros es indudable que no solo atraímos el mejor candidato posible, pero mejor candidato en todos los Estados Unidos. Y por eso yo como alcalde estoy muy orgulloso del hecho que con mi amistad con el jefe, conjunto con la habilidad del administrador, pudimos atraer al mejor jefe en los Estados Unidos. Gracias.